This is the Above Average Podcast, and you are listening because you want an above average life. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Above Average Podcast, the podcast where we talk to above average people about their above average lives. Now, my guest today is a powerhouse performer, from singing with rock legends, playing the part on stage, and now making large strides as a stand-up comedian, as well as a podcast host as well, of Look at What You Could Have Won, which I love the name of, by the way. Her story is as random as it is hilarious, witty as it is inspiring, and I know we're going to go off on many random tangents. It's been a long time coming for you to be on the show, so please welcome Miss Kelly Rickard to the show. How are you, Kelly?
I'm good. I'm really good. I'm excited.
I'm buzzing for this. How long have we been talking about getting you on the show?
I think it's a year.
Oh my god.
I actually think it's a year.
That's made me feel so old now, but I'm glad we finally got to it. So, Kelly, take me back. So, growing up in Wales, did you always have a desire to perform? Like, where did that side of your life come from?
I was always, in my little group of friends, I was always the one that liked to make the other ones laugh. Okay. And I was always playing a character, or at home I'd be putting on a show for my toys. Okay. I was that child. In fact, I was thinking about this. I used to record my voice on an old cassette player. And like record myself doing chats and stories. I mean, I am sounding like a proper little freak, but I think I probably was. Maybe I even.
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, no, I was always. It was always in me to want to entertain.
Yeah.
I think I changed as a teenager. I became. I kind of really craved people's approval and wanted to be a really good girl, so I became quieter and more studious. But definitely as a little child, I really wanted to sort of make people happy and put on a show. Yeah.
No, I love that. I think you are right though. When you reach your teenage years, though, you start to tone down your personality a bit and sort of think, well, am I going to be accepted by all these people? And some people find you funny, some people don't, because it's cute when you're a kid. Everyone finds you funny.
Yeah.
But as you grow up, it gets a little bit harder. But obviously, during your 20s, you did a lot of auditions, a lot of touring, a lot of musicals. Like, what was the goal with it back then? Did you have something in mind?
Very clear. I was desperate to be in a West End musical.
Okay, nice.
I really wanted to be Scaramouche in We Will Rock You, or Fontaine in Les Mis. The only problem being my voice is not a musical theatre voice.
Okay.
No, it was very much like quite distinctive, quite husky, a big sort of belty voice, but it wasn't that really perfect, pretty Disney princess voice.
Okay.
And I think I wasn't old enough to realise that you've got to work with what you've given. I spent my 20s trying to mould my voice and change who I was to fit what casting directors wanted, rather than seeing that the thing I already had might be okay in itself if I learned how to work with it.
Yeah. So I've heard a few things over the time of following your social media of you singing and stuff like that. So where would you say your style fits in terms of your voice?
I really love singing blues and Motown, which is very much culturally appropriating, I'm aware. But that's where my voice sits and feels most comfortable. I don't suit singing pretty soprano stuff.
Okay.
But I would often be put up for those roles, and then I would find myself in this really awkward situation of having to be something I wasn't vocally and trying to sort of push my voice into a place that I didn't want to go. And it just took me years to learn that lesson. And maybe we all have to learn it as well, that thing of this is what you've been given, work with it, be who you are.
Play to your strengths, yeah. I've often said on the show, because obviously like this gym that I work in, this is where I work, so I'm the second guy. I don't own the gym. I don't deal with the taxes and all that side of stuff.
Thank God.
I know, but that's what I mean though. It's like everyone thinks they have to be like the leader of it or the star of the show. Sometimes you're better off as a lieutenant or a side character. You know what I mean?
So much more fun.
Yeah, less pressure, and you can really enjoy it. I think a bit more.
I found a pattern like that happening where I'd be put up for the main role, the sort of pretty female lead, and then I would be constantly cast as the funny best friend.
Okay.
And I would have it said to me a lot, oh, you've got really good comedic timing, or you could consider stand-up, or you should... and I had so much fun playing those roles, but I don't know, I think we get obsessed with this trajectory of where we see our lives going, and it was like, but I need to be in the West End.
Yeah.
That's where it's at. I was very blinkered, and I think I was in danger of not appreciating the roles I was being given. but yeah, like you say, sometimes it's so much more fun to be the second in command.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I love being the lieutenant rather than the captain.
Yeah.
I think it's an important distinction, and especially like it's like sometimes you'd rather be like, obviously being a stand-up comedian, which we'll get into. It's like, would you rather do your act, you get the applause, you go, or would you rather compare the whole thing, put the whole thing together and hire everyone and whatnot? It's like sometimes it's like you fit better as one.
Yes.
And it's like it's really hard to accept that maybe you don't deserve that. It's not like deserve the number one spot. It's like, but you don't fit into that role as well.
Yes.
And maybe it's not your time as well. It's not to say
Yeah.
that you would never fit into it, but it's
Yeah.
like I feel like there's a time and a place for it, especially. So, yeah. Was there a play that you were in or a musical that you were in that you really remember, like that you loved the most?
I don't have a favorite. They were all special for different reasons.
Okay.
I remember the first time I had a successful audition. I'd been out of drama school for about 3 months and I'd attended a couple of auditions. And this was for a musical that was touring Holland for 6 weeks. And it was to play sort of the romantic lead called Catherine. And all of the songs in it were right up my street. It was like Dusty Springfield, Aretha Franklin, all of that. And I'd had the audition and I thought it had gone really badly. I do lack some self-awareness with things like auditions. I'll beat myself up and I'll go, oh my God, that was terrible. I've massively let myself down. And this is what I thought that time. I thought I was awful. And then I was working at the time in a recruitment agency doing admin. And I remember coming out and my phone rang and it was my agent. And she said, are you sitting down? I went, no. She said, well, they're offering you the job. You go to Holland next week. Like, that's how quick it is.
Wow.
Oh, and honestly, it was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
It was everything you would dream of. It was complete debauchery. It was
The life of a touring star, yeah.
the life of a touring star in Amsterdam. And the theatres in Holland treat you so well. There's so much money there.
Yeah.
So there's loads of after-show parties and loads of food and drink thrown at you. And the show was brilliant. So that was really special.
Yeah.
But also it was my first experience of coming home from something like that and realising you're back at ground zero. It's like, oh, that's finished now. And I'm just somebody who's auditioning again. What was I doing? Oh yeah, I was back doing admin again. And so that was a learning curve. And I also had really thrown myself into the friendships with the cast members.
Yeah.
Like really just, I thought we were going to be friends for life. This is it. These are, and then you come home and everybody cracks on with their life. And it was a big learning curve. It was like, oh no, is that just how actors are when you're in a show with them? Right, okay.
Do you still keep in contact with the people from?
Some of them I worked with again on other shows, and there's a fondness there. But I learned to sort of protect myself with that. I learned to, in shows that followed, not to sort of give so much of myself up front. And that is my nature. I think I'm an oversharer, hence the stand-up, and I really crave being liked and making a connection with people. So I have to watch myself with that with casts, because the show comes to an end and you have to carry on with your life. And
Yeah, that must be hard, because I've interviewed a few people who've done shows or TV or whatever, and they've always kind of said that up and down roller coaster of like, you've got the role, you play the part, you're invested solely in that. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I've got to go back to stock the shelves at Tesco for a minute. It's like, it must be such a weird dynamic. Like, how do you personally handle that? Because I know you said it was a learning curve, but what did you do in your mind to sort of get over that a little bit easier?
I think you just learn the rhythm of it. You learn the rhythm of it, and you also, I think that's why most jobbing actors, there's this weird myth that actors have got big egos, and but actually most jobbing actors are quite humble because they know tomorrow the job's done and they're back at McDonald's. And I know that's a cliche, but it's
it is. It's what it is.
So and that I just learnt to not enjoy that rhythm. It was never enjoyable, but just kind of suffer it and go. Enjoy this night, enjoy this show, enjoy this moment, enjoy this applause, because tomorrow it's gone again. And I think some people not get addicted to it, but get used to that to a point where normality and routine then feels weird and alien. And I've definitely had that in my life where I've tried to have what I would call normal jobs and just really thought, well, it feels really bizarre to me getting up and doing similar things every day and that sounds insane, but that rhythm of having a job and then nothing and a job and then nothing, and that was more normal to me.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
yeah.
anything can become your normality. Yeah. The hardest part wasn't coming home from a job. It was the getting down to the last two for stuff. And that can go on for weeks. You go for an audition, you get a recall, you go for another audition, you get recalled, till it's just two of you in the waiting room, and you can hear them singing, and you're going, oh my God, it's so much better, and then you're just waiting for the call. And in that limbo, you know that if you get that job, that's life-changing.
Yeah.
The sort of status and money that comes with like a West End music, that is life-changing. That's not just a 6-week tour somewhere. And so you're like, this is it. Is this it? Has it all been worth it? Is this what it's been for? And then you'll get the call, actually, we went another way this time. And you're like,
you bastards. What was wrong with me?
And it floors you. It really floors you. It's you know, I don't know, heartbreaking's maybe too big, but it certainly puts a crack in there. That's the tough bit.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I mean, it's funny, you know, because like I'm coming to the end of my 20s now. As a man who's coming to the end of his 20s, it was very easy for me when I started, because I've been doing videos for a long time and trying to find my stride with it, trying to find some sort of success in this sort of speaking world. And it was really miserable for a long time, because I think I was living in that void between where I actually was and what I was capable of doing and where I wanted to be. I was living in this void of disappointment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, especially in their 20s, it's like, I mean, it's blew by. The fact that I'm 30 in March, I'm very scared to turn 30. But it's like, if you're constantly looking ahead at where you're not, I feel like you're going to miss out on a lot of the memories. Like we were talking beforehand, making the memories and doing things for the memories and whatnot. I think if you're constantly looking at where I'm not, like if you were constantly focused on, well, I'm not on the West End, so I'm clearly not good enough to you focus on that, you're always going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So I think you've got to find that line of, okay, I'm here, I accept that I'm here, and then, you know, I've still got goals, but I'm not living depressed because of it.
Yeah, there's so much to be said for that, not obsessing about the upward trajectory, not being like, oh, what's next? You know, goals are brilliant, but we can't live by them. We have to live by what's happening right now, right in front of us. And I couldn't agree more with that. I see it a lot in stand-up, where there are comedians who I would consider to be very successful, but they don't see themselves as successful because they're not on Live at the Apollo, or they've set themselves something that to them looks like success. But to me, what a crazy, mad, beautiful privilege to be paid to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. That's to me, that looks like success. But I get, once you achieve that, you then go, oh yeah, but what if I was doing a tour, or what if I got an award in Edinburgh? There's always something.
Yeah.
And I know that's human nature, but I'm with you. I think that is the road to unhappiness if you can't enjoy what's happening right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of something that was a big goal, you were cast in a Mark Ronson girl band that you mentioned to me. What was the crack with that?
Oh my God, that was, I call it my almost doesn't count story. It was
Brilliant.
It was the closest I've ever come to going, this is it. Like, so my agent rang, I was 27, and she went, Mark Ronson's record label are putting together a Motown girl group. And this was when Valerie and Amy Winehouse was like at its peak. And Mark Ronson's name was everywhere. And this was even bigger than like the West End dream. This was something I hadn't even dared to dream. I was like, and she was like, all you have to do, you have to turn up at this place in a back street in King's Cross. And
sounds a bit dodgy.
And all of it was always dodgy. It was always like, am I doing this really? And you need to look sort of 60s. Well, that was my style anyway. I've always loved massive eyeliner and back home in my hair, and I'm quite camp. And they were like, all you got to do is prepare a bit of Valerie. So I turned up, and it was, a lot of auditions aren't like this, but this was very much, it looked like X Factor. It looked like where you see the ring of people go around the building. And there was hundreds of us, all girls, all kind of styled to look this certain way. And as we were getting closer and closer to the front of the line, you noticed that people were in and out within 30 seconds. They were at most singing one line.
Oh my God, that's very quick to judge, isn't it?
Yeah, really quick to judge. And I went in, And I was all prepared to sing the first line. So I sang the first line and I thought, holy shit, they're not stopping me. So I sang the second line and the third and the fourth. And then I got to the chorus and I was like, what's actually happening here? And my knees started to go. Like the whole body was just like, because I'm one of those people, if something feels pie in the sky, I'm fine with it. But this started to feel like tenable, tangible, like this could be happening.
Yeah.
And then they let me go all the way through the song. And they went, Kelly, we think you really have something. It was like something from a film. We think your voice is really distinctive, really recordable. Go away, have a coffee, and come back when you're not nervous. Okay. Imagine somebody saying that. So I went and sat in Starbucks and I was like, don't look nervous. Just rocking in my chair. Like
that would make me more nervous.
Oh, I was beyond. What happens with me if my nerves take hold is I get very cold. So I was just sat there like shivering, and there were two girls with me that I'd made friends with in the waiting room, because I've never been one to like see other women as competition. I've always just thought, whoever gets this is a triumph. Like, let's just... So I was sat with two of them. And they were just like, just think of it like it's fun. It's just, you're just getting up and you're singing in front of a few people. So I went back and the hundreds and hundreds had gone and there was 8 of us. And I was like, oh my God, not this again, not this getting down to the last few. And I went back in and this time they asked me to sing, you know, that Killing Me Softly song that the Fugees did.
Yes.
They were like, do you know it? And I said, yeah. So I sang a bit. And there's a look that passes between casting directors, which you kind of get to know, where I used to, when I first started, think it was bad, like I'd done something wrong, but then I started to realise it was because they'd seen something in you, and they just kind of looked at each other. Mark Ronson wasn't there. It was somebody called George from his label. It was all I knew, and 2 other women. And they looked at each other, and then they went, Kelly, we really would love you to do this. We'd love you to be involved in this project. We'll send you the dates and all of the information. Nice. We've got your agent's details. So I left, and I've never had that before, where it was just like my body went from beneath me. I remember ringing my mum and being like, it's happened, because I'd been in London 8 years by this point. And I was like, I've been picked for this band and it's Mark Ronson and it's massive. And I rang my sister and I rang Nick, who I'd just started seeing at this point. That's my husband now. And then Monday came and there was no phone call from my agent. Tuesday came, no phone call. Wednesday, I rang them and they were like, honestly, Kelly, it's not looking very positive. Like, we've had a few emails back and forth and they don't think they're going to go ahead with the project at all. And that was it. No feedback given, no reason given.
That must have just been such a kick.
Just taken off the table. Yeah, it was. It really, really was. But also, I think anyone that's spent any length of time in the performing arts industry has a story like that. And it's the shit bit of it. Yeah. The only saving grace was that it didn't go ahead without me. It was like, it wasn't me.
Yeah, you were happy the whole project was trashed.
Yeah, I would rather the whole project be trashed than 3 other people went on to have huge success with it. I
love that. It's like, if it's not me, it's fucking nobody. There we go. I love that.
Yeah, that was brutal. That was taken to my bed for a few days, that one. Yeah. Just eating beans out of the saucepan.
Was it like in all those romantic comedies where they start eating ice cream, watching like...
Oh yeah,
on YouTube and stuff. Yeah,
yeah. But instead of like watching stuff, because this is how old I am, Adam. YouTube wasn't really a thing yet. I mean, it was, but not as huge as it is now. So I just had like a tiny little TV in my little bed sit in London.
VHS tapes. Yeah. Was it the little silver one that everyone had with the built-in?
That's the one.
Yeah, I had that. I used to love that. Do you know what? We found it in the loft not long ago. And I was like, because we just hoard shit. Yeah. And I was like, I can't believe I watched films on this tiny thing. Like, how did I ever see anything?
But you didn't just watch it, you enjoyed it. Yeah. Like, we didn't sit there going, oh, it's tiny, I can't see anything.
Yeah, but it wasn't like one person, it wasn't just you watching it. It wasn't just one, but it was like the whole family would watch this tiny little screen. Yeah. It's mad how times have changed. But you performed at a secret celebrity wedding.
I did.
Yes. So can you reveal whose wedding it was?
I mean, there's definitely a non-disclosure agreement that I've signed somewhere, but it was 15 years ago. So good luck with finding that. Yeah. It was, Ronnie Woods from the Rolling Stones. It was his daughter, Leah Woods.
Oh, that's cool.
It was very cool. But I wasn't even allowed to find out whose wedding it was beforehand.
Okay.
It was absolutely mad. So, again, I got a call from my agent. All good stories start with this. And they said, right, there's an agency looking for people who are 5'2" and under, who have a special skill to perform at a celebrity wedding. So they're like, we're going to put you forward and your special skill can be singing. And I was like, brilliant. Then I got a call to say, you've got the job. You need to be at Richmond train station at, I think it was 3:00 on a Saturday. And I was like, well, whose wedding is it? Where am I going? They're like, we don't know anything else. And I was like, do I need to prepare?
Sounds really dodgy. We're looking for people with special skills under this height. Come to this location and we're not going to tell you anything about it.
Oh, it was always like that. Like, it was always like, this could end in my death.
Yeah.
Like, it was always. So I turned up and weirdly, there was like 6 of us that got off the train at Richmond Station, and I thought, we're all tiny. Are they all... What's the deal with the height? And so then this woman turned up who was like the wedding coordinator, and she took her job far too seriously. Like the power had gone to her head. She was like, right, guys, I'm going to need to take your phones off you. You all need to give your phones now. And also, you could never speak about this to anybody, clearly, if I've listened. She went... you know, you can't know whose wedding it is yet, and don't touch any of the celebrities. Don't touch
the
them.
celebrities. Okay. Then you're going to go and be like, hi.
Stroking their face.
They're just having a private conversation. You're just like, stubble.
Yeah. And then they bundled us all into this taxi with like blacked out windows. And I was going, what special skill did you put? And somebody put tumbling. And I was like, all right, what special skill did you put? And she was like, oh, I do acrobatics. And I was thinking, when am I doing my song? Like, what's happening here? And then we got out, and she went, oh, by the way, you're all going to be dressed as pixies. And I was like, okay. And it was all just a bit weird and trippy. And she put us dressed as this, and then the hairdresser came and, like, styled my hair in a mohawk. And I was like, this isn't... I was sort of picturing myself in, like, a pin-up style dress, like, serenading the guests. Yeah. And then she went, right, what's your special skill? I said sing, and she went, oh, no, you can't sing. She's like, I was like, what do you mean? And she went, I don't know, just wave your wand around or something. And I was like, wand? And then they gave us all wands. And basically, our job was to sort of, the only way I can put it is to mince around in the outdoor bit of this wedding, looking like pixies, not approaching the celebrities, and keeping an eye out for paparazzi. That was it.
What were you going to do if there was a paparazzi? Cast a magic spell
I
on
know,
them?
it was absolutely crazy. And so... This was the point where she went, it was like trying to piece together clues. I looked up on the wall and there was a picture of Ronnie Woods and Rod Stewart. And I was like, are we in one of their houses? Like, what is this? And then I could see Jerry Hall and Mick Jagger appearing as guests. And I was like, who is this then? And then eventually somebody was like, it's Leah Woods, it's Ronnie Woods' daughter. But the wedding was like nothing I'd ever seen. There was a fun fair there. There was kind of like, I mean, we were there, which was weird. There was a treehouse. There was a point where I set off a child's alarm on their belt. So I was like waving my wand around, special skill, because that was all I had. And this child's belt just started like buzzing and beeping.
That's
and
weird.
Then an actor whose name I won't tell you, a British actor, came up and he, I'm going to have to swear for this bit, but
That's
he just,
fine. You can swear on this podcast.
he just
fine.
got down to my level and he went, you touch my fucking child and I will come for you. And I was
Wow.
like, and I was like with my wand, I didn't touch your child. I was just waving my wand.
You're like,
It was awful, but it was a real learning thing because all you could do when you're on the periphery of like these big celebrity things is all you can do is observe.
Yeah.
All you can do. And what I noticed is in amongst all of the grotesque lavishness and glamour, the kind people stand out. Okay. Kindness is a real currency in that world because not everybody is kind.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember I was playing with one little girl from a distance with my wand, and Kate Moss came over, and it was her little girl. And Kate Moss just spoke to me like I was a normal human being.
Yeah.
She was lovely, and she was friendly, and she was down to it, properly stunning, like breathtakingly stunning. But also I noticed she had a tiny bit of mascara gloop in her eye, and I thought, even Kate Moss
girl to
gets
girl,
me.
yeah.
We were chatting, and she just really stood out. And then there was a point where the crazy wedding coordinator resurfaced, and she was like, paparazzi have been spotted in the bushes. Can you go and wait in the bush over there? I thought I was at the job as this, like, so I was like for how long? What am I looking for? And she was like, well, somebody with a lens. I was like, right. So I just crouched down in the bushes for what felt like hours, just watching this amazing wedding in the distance. It was a real moment because my niece's birthday was that weekend in Wales, and I was like, why? I could be with my family. I could be with the people that love me, and I'm here in a bush dressed like a pixie. Like, it was just and
this is a fucking brilliant story.
it's so ridiculous. It was so ridiculous. And then in the tree, I had this one moment of rebellion though, where I thought, again, I'm going to sweat, fuck it. And Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones and Kate Moss went up into the treehouse together, and I thought, I'm going in the treehouse.
Oh my God, yes.
I'm going in, and I'm just going to sit there. And that's what I did. I sat in a treehouse with Keith Richards and Kate Moss while they sang When the Saints Go Marching In. I think some alcohol had been consumed by them, but I just thought, this is once in a lifetime. I'm not staying in the bushes forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I did it for 5 minutes, and then I went back to the bushes because I was scared of the wedding coordinator. But that was insane.
That's amazing. That's blown me away.
It's really sad that I didn't get to take pictures, though. Imagine that on social media.
Yeah, but the story of it. What year was this?
2008 or 9.
So the iPhone stuff kind of just come out.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had one. It was tiny. It was like a lipstick. It was pink, and you kind of like flipped it.
Oh yeah.
I loved it.
I miss my flip phone, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've only met one celebrity in my life. I mean, unless you count some of the people that have been on the show, but like celebrities.
You've had people that could be counted.
The celebrity in terms of like that people would widely know, and it was. Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Yes.
Do you know his son who's got cerebral palsy?
Oh my God, yes.
So it was when I worked in I worked in a TGI Fridays. This was years ago. I had hair at the time, and there was a big. I know that's how long ago it was.
That's the era.
Yeah, that's the era. The hair era, and there was a big long table of people, and I'm like, who are? I recognize some of these faces, and I was like, that's the guy. That was the guy from. There was a guy from who the Johnny Depp. Willy Wonka that he did.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that played the Oompa Loompa. So
yes.
He was there, and then there's a few others that were from like Teen Wolf and stuff. It was such a weird mix of people.
I love that is.
It was just a weird collection of people. And then RJ Mitty, the guy who plays Walt Jr. in Breaking Bad, was there. And I was like, I need to go over to him, but they're all in conversation or whatever. Yeah. And I happened to be typing in an order, and he'd been to the toilet and came past. And obviously I collared him, and I says, look, like, I don't want to interrupt your meal or whatever, but would you be able to take a picture with me afterwards? And he was like, yeah, absolutely, like, not a problem. And then it got really busy, and they were finishing up and leaving, and I was on the bar mixing drinks and whatever. And he came looking for me because he knew I wanted this picture. So he'd waited for me. All the rest of them went back to the hotel, and he waited it was only a few minutes he waited, but he like made an effort to come and find me to get this picture.
I love that.
Like, what
as he should. But not all celebrities would.
No, yeah, but I was just like, what an absolute legend to just like wait for someone like that. He had all day at Comic-Con. He was probably wrecked, but like this one wait, I wanted a picture with him, and I was like, what an absolute legend of a guy.
I love that. God, I loved Breaking Bad. Our little boy is called Jesse because of Breaking Bad.
Nice.
I've named my son after a meth dealer, but he had a good heart.
At least it's not Walter.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesse's was a good show. So with like in terms of the auditions and things that you do, the singing that you did, tell me about Kelly and the Sensations.
Oh, yeah. So I had moved up to Newcastle with Nick, who's my now husband, and I had this not weird, actually, I think loads of people have it, this stupid, ignorant, London-centric view that, like, you have to be in London if you want to make it happen. And I'd come up to Newcastle, and it had never occurred to me that actually you can have a career as a performing artist up here. And Nick was like, he had such a lovely, simple view about performing. He was just like, you're a canny chanter, get up and do it. And I was like, but no, I need someone to audition me. I need a gatekeeper to tell me I'm good. He's like, no, you don't. I'll be in a band with you. So it was me, him, and we had a bass player, a drummer, and a keyboard player. And we, As You Like It, the bar in Jesmond, at the time was really, really big on a Friday and Saturday night. It was like the venue to play. And we had our first gig there, and I was so nervous because I still had that anxiety from London of not being good enough, of being the girl that got down to the last two, or the girl that it almost happened for, that I couldn't get my head around that I was just allowed to choose to get up on stage. I was like, it felt like this is not right, this. Like, somebody's going to come in and say, get her down, she's not good enough. So I was nearly sick in the toilets. And then I got up, and it was about 3 songs in that I thought, oh, this is fine. I'm all right at singing, and people are really enjoying this. And it was lovely, and it was massive, and it snowballed. And we went from being, you know, this band that was just trying out being a band to 3-4 gigs a week every week. Gorgeous venues, really lovely stuff started to happen. Like, we got voted in top 10 wedding bands UK.
Nice. So you did weddings and stuff as well?
Oh yeah, weddings was our thing.
Nice.
Like,
okay.
Yeah. Oh God, I love a wedding. Yeah. No, it was a really, really lovely experience, and we did it for 4 years. And such a lovely thing for me and Nick to do together as well. I don't know how many couples get to do that, the thing that they love together at the same time.
It didn't work out well for ABBA, did it?
No, so. exactly. And oh God, there were times where we drove each other absolutely mental. It was one of the things I'm most grateful for. It was such a lovely experience. And then it broke.
Was there a reason that you want to go into it for, or was it just kind of came to a natural conclusion?
No, it wasn't a natural conclusion. I walked away. So I got pregnant after we got married and lost the baby, and I just couldn't. Well, what happened was I got up. This was maybe 6 weeks after the miscarriage. I got up on stage at As You Like It, because this is the thing: if you book a gig, you do the gig.
Yes.
It's not. You can't just phone in sick or.
Yeah.
And I got up on stage, and I'd never had this before. I went to start singing. It was Son of a Preacher Man, and no sound would come out. Just absolutely no sound. And the whole band's looking at me, everyone in the room. And I was like, and it was like when you've got a cough stuck there.
Yes.
But I couldn't get past it. And Nick was like, sing something. Like, and I was like, I can't. So I got off stage, and he was like, what's going on? And I was like, I can't make any sound come out. And he's like, that's ridiculous. Stop being a fanny. And I was like, no, I really can't. And it just occurred to me then, I was like, I don't want to entertain people anymore. I don't want to be up on stage at weddings watching gorgeous children slide around the dance floor. I don't want to be anywhere where I'm in charge of other people's happiness, because I was so sad.
Yeah.
And I was so angry. And I also had this really weird idea that the universe had decided I shouldn't be a mother. And so I went about trying to make myself be more like what a mother would be. So I was like, that's it, I'm not singing anymore. I threw all my costumes into a bin liner and started shopping at Dorothy Perkins. And then I got myself a job as a school teacher, got all my hair cut off into a bob. I was like literally trying to show someone up there, look, I'm ready to be a mother. And that was the end of the band. Just walked away from it, and I really regret it. But I think sadness makes you really selfish. Like, we glorify sadness a lot. But actually, you're so blinkered. All you can think about is, what do I need to do to get through the day? Yeah. And I just couldn't imagine ever wanting to get up on stage again. And that was the end of the band.
No, do you think there's going to be a resurgence at any point? Do you think we're going to see the comeback tour?
Well, not of Kelly and the Sensations, but Nick and I have started a new band.
Nice.
Yeah, we have started. So we had like a 9-year gap, I think, and then stand-up really helped with that. Stand-up, writing the show really helped with that, because it was through the writing of the show I thought, oh my God, I've been punishing myself for so long. Like, I'm a decent singer. Yeah. Just get back out there. And so we've started a new band called, which was not my idea, but I didn't put up too much of a fight, Queen K and the Kings. And it's all, like it. Thank you. And it's all like swamp pop, blues, a lot of 50s and 60s stuff from America, which is right up my street.
Oh yeah, I love it. But I want to talk about Nick for a second as well, because he sounds like an absolute legend of a dude.
He is a legend.
And you met on a show together.
We did.
And it was Forbidden Romance.
It was Forbidden Romance.
So tell me about how that happened, and it actually got quite dark for you guys as well.
Yeah, it did get a bit dark. So when I was in London, so I was 27, and my friend Chloe had been working on this big Elvis theatre show, and she got an advert. And if you get an advert, you have to take the job, because that's your pension, potentially. And so she was like, can you just cover me for this one gig in Barnstable in Devon? It's you're singing and you're dancing and you're doing Elvis backing vocals. So I was
No
like,
pressure.
yeah, no pressure. So I spent a few days learning all the backing vocals, got on a train to Barnstable in Devon, and I was sat in the auditorium, and 3 men walked onto the stage for the start of the sound check. And the one in the middle, because I think there's a myth, right, that girls aren't visual, that our heads don't get turned by a pretty face. But he had the prettiest face I'd ever seen. And I was like, holy shit, who is that? And then, but I was clever. I was a clever girl, and I knew that wasn't enough. Like, I knew. So I put up these barriers in my head where I was like, he's probably an idiot. Like, he's probably not. I saw him get his guitar out of the case, and I was like, he's probably not even that good at guitar. Like, by this point, I'd known a lot of guitarists. Like, it wasn't enough to impress me. And I'd put all these barriers up. So got on stage for the sound check, and I hadn't spoken to him yet, but I was setting up my mic. And he started, as part of the sound check, playing the solo from Dire Straits' Sultans of Swing. And I'm like this. And all of a sudden, every hair on the back of my neck just stood up, and I was like, oh, shit, he's really talented.
Like, be still, my beating ovaries.
Oh my God. Honestly, he was just... He's really brilliant at the guitar, but in a way that can't be taught. Like, he never plays the solo the same way twice. It's just something that comes from him. He can play stuff by ear, which blows my mind that he doesn't.
Yeah, it's nuts when musicians can do that. Yeah.
And so but in my head I'm going, I don't know, he's probably always had everything handed to him on a plate. Like, he's probably one of them.
I love that you're talking yourself out of this.
I'm constantly talking myself out of it. And then I heard one of the other guys say, he's just so phenomenal. And it's something about, it's just mental when you know about his childhood. And I was like,
tell me
more.
more.
Which, I don't know what this says about me, and a psychologist would have a field day with it, but I like someone with a bit of vulnerability. Okay. I like to know somebody's been through something. I don't necessarily connect that well to people that have always had it easy. I don't know what that's about, but I was like, oh God, like every hurdle I was putting up in my head, he was unknowingly crushing it, because he didn't know at this point that I was interested. Then we were in the bar after the show, and I'm still convincing myself, I'm like, nah, he lives in Newcastle, like what? No. And then we were only going to see each other for this one night. And then at the time, being in London, I was used to people being sort of social chameleons and knowing how to play the room and being different in every room. It was like a social minefield. And what I noticed about Nick sat in the bar chatting to everybody is I thought, I've never met anyone this unapologetically themselves, this authentic. This just says what's in his head. And that was attractive to me. And then I remember when we were saying goodbye, I was used to men who pretended to want to wine and dine me, that like knew what to say, knew how to charm you, and he was the complete opposite. Like, as we were going, I went, he's like, you're not coming on the tour bus, pet? I was like, no, I'm just doing this one gig. And he went, it's probably for the best, because they'd have to get the busies out to keep me off you. And this was in front of everyone, and I thought, oh my God, he's just essentially made a joke about sexual assault, but my thighs went up in flames. They went up in flames. I was just like, who is this? And Brilliant. Then this is how long ago it was. I went, oh, well, nice to meet you. You know, we'll probably not see each other again. And he also said, I overheard him say to one of the others, she's canny funny for a lass. Oh, well, that was just like nectar to me. I was like, yeah, I am. But as we were going, he went, have you heard about this new thing called Facebook?
We're going back a bit here, folks.
We're going back. And I was like, what is that thing that's like MySpace? And he was like, yeah, it's like MySpace, but better. He's like, I'll find you on it. So I just remember going home, immediately signing up for Facebook. And the first person that I added was not my best friend or my family. I went looking for him. Like, it was pathetic. And yeah, so So I thought, that's it. He'll just be some boy I know on Facebook. And then Chloe rang me a few weeks later, my friend, and she went, they need someone to do the whole tour. I can't do the whole tour. She's like, it would mean living on the tour bus for nearly a month and doing different theatres in the UK. And I was like, in a heartbeat, I walked out of the job I had. I didn't think anything. I just got on that tour bus and didn't look back. And we properly fell for each other. But Elvis, who was in charge of the whole thing, not the Elvis, I'm not that old, but the Elvis impersonator, was like, absolutely, he called it funny business, absolutely no funny business between the girls and the band, just completely banned. Yeah. So we had to keep it secret. So there was a lot of like covert chats in dressing rooms. And
Yeah, it's kind of hot though, isn't it, when
oh,
you
it
think
was very
about
hot.
it?
There was a lot of kissing in cupboards, which I
Yeah.
remember. Yeah, and then one night we were like in the bunk bed of the bus, and I actually think he might have been trying to finish with me. I don't know, but it was like one of them weird conversations about how ready to commit are we,
Yeah.
which men were very fond of at the time. And I just felt,
What are we?
where's this going? And then I just felt a massive boot dig into my side, and it was the guy who was Elvis, kicked me through the curtain, and he was like, "Get out of there now."
Wow.
So I opened the curtain immediately so you could see I was dressed, and we were just chatting. He was like, "We'll talk about this tomorrow." So then the following morning we got to the theatre for that night, and him and the other guy who were in charge of the show took me into a dressing room, sat me down, and like I was kind of pinned like against a wall the way they'd sat me. And they were, well, the first one's opening line to me was, "Are all backing singers whores, or is it just you?"
Fuck.
Oh yeah. And the way they spoke to me will stay with me until the day I die. Because at this point, I'd had 2 serious relationships. I was not really a free and easy girl in that way. Like
Yeah,
I was
yeah, yeah.
only, but even if I'd have been swinging from the chandeliers
It's
with
none of their business.
they don't get to talk to me like that. I know that now. But they also, everything they said was awful. They said that my parents would be really ashamed of me. They said that they had daughters, and if their daughters went on like I had, they'd be disgusted. They also said that Nick could get anyone he wanted. Why would he want me?
Wow.
It was
They
really...
were laying it on.
Oh, they laid it on. I think at one point, one of them said, "He's not into you. He just likes easy pussy."
Wow.
Which was, I just remember just feeling such shame. And by the end, I was hyperventilating. I was crying that much.
Yeah.
And then he said, "And you don't need to be telling anybody about this conversation, Kelly. If this conversation leaves the room, we won't pay you for the whole of this month." So
Straight up blackmail.
Straight up blackmail. And I remember leaving the dressing room, and then they called Nick in. And I listened at the door. And I thought, oh no, this is going to be awful. They're going to lay into him now. This is going to be terrible. And it was one of these defining moments where I thought, oh, it's different for men. Because there was no laying into him. They just went, "You know how it goes, son. No funny business with the backing singers. Get yourself to Subway and get us 2 meatball marinara, and we'll call that a day." And I was like, they've literally just called me a whore. And that it was really... And I remember it was very sort of Victorian romantic heroine of me, but I went and stood by the sea because we were in some seaside resort, and I was just sobbing. And I was like, "But he's just a boy that I like." And I didn't like,
Yeah.
I don't understand, why does that make me dirty or awful or something to be ashamed of? And I didn't want to ring my mother because I didn't want to worry her. And I didn't want to ring my friends, and I couldn't tell anyone in the band because they weren't going to pay me if I did. So I just sort of dried my tears and got up on stage, danced my little heart out and sang that night. But that, yeah, it stayed with me that night.
Wow. Yeah, no, I don't think that's something easy to
We
forget.
didn't invite them to the wedding.
No shit, yeah. So how did you actually get out of that in the end? Because, like, did you tell Nick about that conversation eventually, or what?
I told him eventually, and he was just like, he's like, "They're just a pair of fannies. They're just from a bygone era. Like, they don't know how to go on." And he's like, "They don't know how I feel about you, and they don't know where this is going, and I'm serious about this." And I think it kind of propelled us both forward, because it really made us slam into perspective what we wanted from it. Because I was very clear. I was like, listen, if you are just using me, I'm not interested. Like, I'm not, for me, this is something more. And then with the tour came to an end, thankfully, because I just didn't want to be around them that much anymore.
Yeah, no, I can imagine.
And I was in London one day, and we were chatting, and we chatted loads, and he used to come and visit me, and it was going really well. And he just rang me one day, and he was like, I want more than this. I want to move in with you, and I want to. And then obviously after that, we still had a couple of gigs with them. We still had to see them, but they were very quiet after that. I think they realised that it did mean something to him. But even if it hadn't, there was absolutely no way to speak to a young girl like that.
No, absolutely not. And especially not to then go and I mean, it was wrong for them to speak to you like that anyway, but then to just not say anything to Nick as well, like, just it shows where their mindset was at that time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice men.
Yeah, lovely. I hope they're still going well. I hope they're doing well. So let's talk about your career in comedy. So you almost got into. Did you get into like on a whim? Did you just do it for the shits and giggles? Like, how did you get into it?
So it was something I'd thought about since my 20s, but I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of people who appreciate stand-up go, could I do that? No. Could I? I like chatting. Could I? You know,
it's very different when the lights are on you, though, isn't it? Yeah.
But because I'd had a lot of casting directors in my 20s say to me, "You're really funny. You've got comedic timing. You've got..." Oh, that was in the back of my head always. And then lockdown had happened. We didn't have the band anymore. I remember being really ill with COVID and lying in my bed and being like, if we ever get out of this, what the hell's my life going to look like? Like, who am I now without the band and with the children growing up? And so it was like I'd pulled it out of a hat. It was like, well, one of the things I've thought about is giving stand-up a go. So, and a couple of things happened, like a sort of perfect storm, when my dad's best friend died. And he'd always said to me, you're a stand-up. This is Tony. I'd write stuff about my auditions and put it online. And he's like, this is a stand-up set. You're a stand-up. You need to do stand-up. And he died, and I thought, I'm going to sort of honour Tony and give it a little go. And then at the same time, a friend of mine who I'd worked with in London had become a casting director, and we had a little Zoom chat, like a reunion, and she was like, when are you going to do stand-up then? I was like, no. She went, but you're a stand-up, you've got a voice that people should hear, you've got an original worldview, you're very honest, women need to hear it. And I thought, right, too many things are happening, too many signs. I'm just going to sign up for an open mic. Yeah.
So it wasn't a case of like, I'm not going to do it because everyone's telling me to do it now. Like, you know, when someone says watch this TV show and you're like, I'm not going to watch it.
No, and I can be like that. I can be like, I didn't watch Harry Potter for that reason. I can be very like, I preferred Blur to Oasis. I like going against the grain.
Yeah. I prefer Blur to Oasis too. I'm with you
so
there.
Much better.
Yeah.
So that's it. We'll do a podcast about that now.
Absolutely, yeah. Part two.
I just signed up for this open mic night and just thought, my mindset was get it out of my system.
Yes.
Because it had been a thought in the back of my mind for just get it out of my system. And it was at the Globe in Newcastle. And I think there were 6 other people in who were all comics. So there was no, or maybe there was, maybe 2 of them were proper audience members. And it was like, I've never felt nerves like that in my life. It was so different to getting up and doing a song or acting. I was just like, my whole body felt alight. And then I got up and something weird happened where I just thought, oh, of course. There was like an of courseness to it.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can describe it. It was just, oh, of course. It was just like a certainty, like a coming home, like a, this is fine.
Yeah.
This is all this is talking to people, and I like people and I like talking, and yes, it is more than that, I get that. Other comedians will hate me for saying that.
But when you're naturally funny and it kind of comes out naturally, it's like, yeah, I can imagine
it wasn't like I was playing a character or anything. And that was the beginning of it. And then the next sort of 2 gigs later, Felt Now were doing a comedy competition, which they invited me to. I never would have put myself up for it because competitions scare me.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I won it was because I was new. I'd had no chance to build up any like resistance to it, because you know that thing when you really want something, there's an air of desperation. I had none of that.
Yeah, you take away the fear of it.
Yeah, I was just like, well, I'm not going to win. Look at all these really experienced comedians that have been going for 3 years. I'm just gonna get up there and do my best. And then when they called my name, if you watch the video back, I take ages to make it to the stage because I thought they were talking to another Kelly. I was just at the back of the green room like, yay for Kelly. And they were like, it's you. And it takes ages for me to get up there. Yeah. And that was kind of the start of it then, where I went, oh, I seem to be all right at this actually. And and more than that, more than I seem to be all right at it, I really like this. And I've always been one for chasing an adventure, so that was that. Yeah,
no, I love it, and I've seen so much at the stand now, and I've interviewed quite a few comedians, and I just look like, if you go through my podcast episodes, it's like there's like some motivational guru, fitness guy, and then it's comedian. And because I just love, because you always have the best stories and they always just make the best episodes. And I've loved comedy from such a young age. So it's a privilege to get to interview comedians, especially. But like, one question that I always have to ask them, because it's my favorite thing, is there a heckle that really stands out to you the most? Have you had, maybe it's the best heckle you've ever had or the worst heckle you've ever had?
My worst heckle was not in stand-up. It was when I was singing.
Okay.
I was in Holland. It was that first job. And I was coming back on for my second song. And I audibly heard this Dutch man go, "Oh, God, not her again."
Oh, okay.
And
Yes,
I
okay.
had a whole song to go. And I was like, yeah. So there was that. Oh, God, I really want to touch wood, but I've not had a bad heckle.
Okay. Well,
I've had comments from other comics which have felt like heckles, but I've not had. No.
What about a gig that kind of maybe went off the rails? Maybe you were in the green room and you've seen this sort of going down and you're like, ooh, what's going on out there? Like,
yeah, my worst gig was because of another comic, and not a male comic, it was a female comic. Okay. And we were on a weekend together at the Stand. And I have, for better or worse, I do have women up on a bit of a pedestal. I'm a proper girl's girl. If there's another woman on the lineup, I'll always shout them out. I'll always kind of like, and this again was a learning curve. So on the Friday night, she was the headliner. And I was like, oh my God, to the audience, like, what are the Stand thinking? They're letting two of us up here tonight. Like, and I was like, you've got your fabulous female headliner, female headliner, what are they thinking? And the whole audience went, whoa, and it was nice. I thought a nice pro-female moment. Yeah. And then the following night in the green room, I just thought, sometimes you can feel actual hate coming off someone. And as someone that compulsively wants people to like them, I was very aware that this woman did not like me. And I was like, directing questions to her, like, did you go have a look at the Christmas market today outside Elm Square? And she was answering to the men in the room. So even if I directly spoke to her body language, her everything.
Away from you, yeah.
And I was like, okay, what's happening here? And then she was so clever the way she went about this. I was just about to go on stage. So you'll have seen at the Stand where you wait.
At the side, yeah.
At the side. Yeah. And that's generally, everyone knows to kind of, apart from give you a thumbs up or have a good one, they leave you alone because that's you. Like, and I was stood there and I was about to go on. The compere was like about to mention my name, and I just felt this very icy cold hand clutch me in the dark. And she went, "Kerry?" And I'm thinking, my name's Kelly, but okay.
She knew that.
Yeah, she knew. I went, yeah. And she went, "Take my name out of your fucking set."
Wow.
And I went, "Sorry, what? What? Like, pardon? I'm sorry." And she went, "You don't speak for me. You speak for yourself." And I went, "All right, I'm so," and I hadn't, in my mind, I'm going, I didn't say your name. And then she was like, don't call me female. But she is cisgendered and refers to herself as she, her. So it wasn't a gender mix-up. And I was like, oh, and she was like, "You don't ever mention my name in your set again." And then the compere went, "Kelly Rickard!" And I was like, and I couldn't, like, I'm not good at confrontation at the best of times, but when your adrenaline's up and it's somebody that you respect and somebody that you've assumed kind of has shares a bit of identity with you, which was my mistake. This was my mistake. And then I got up on there and I was very tearful. And it just, but that's where the acting came into it. I acted like I was having a good time. Mm-hmm. And then there was two men in the front row chatting. This is where I got further derailed. And I was like, "Oh, am I interrupting you boys?" And he went, "No, he's just saying he used to live next door to you." And it was a neighbour that we'd had who, it was just very, very dark. We could hear dark stuff with him and his wife through the wall. Yeah. And I was just like, oh, I don't know how to make this funny. And I'm already really tearful. And it was just, I've never felt such vulnerability on stage. I've never wanted more to be able to resort to a character. And that was where I was like, oh no, stand-up's different. There's no song I'm coming to. It was just plow on through. And then I got off stage and just went to the toilet and sobbed.
Wow, that's you handled that way better than I could have imagined anyone would.
No, that's where I think, like, a lot of comedians will go, "Oh, well, you're an actor," as if like
you can just turn it on and off.
Somehow that gives me an advantage, and in that instance, it did, because it was like I just pretended to be a comic that was having a nice gig.
Wow.
who was dying inside.
No. I hope I haven't interviewed this comedian, and I hope I never will. I'm not going to ask to name names.
You haven't interviewed him.
But is she still doing it?
She is. She's quite successful. She's a lot older than me.
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah.
Let's watch her comedy career tank. But yeah, so we mentioned obviously that you are married now, and we spoke about this before. I asked to make sure you were okay with this, but obviously you struggled with childbirth and having a child. But you very tragically went through a miscarriage and along that journey, but you ended up trying IVF, which is not something I've discussed on the show before, but I'm interested too, because I think a lot of people don't really understand the ins and outs of IVF. So can you explain the decision to do it and how that impacts your life as you go through that?
Yeah, so sort of 2 years after our miscarriage, we'd had fertility tests, and they couldn't quite pinpoint what was going on with us, but doctors were saying it's not looking like you're going to be able to conceive naturally. It was that thing of like, with other people we might have been able to conceive, but with Nick's sperm and my eggs it just wasn't happening.
Right.
And so they kind of suggested IVF. I'd looked at everything.
Yeah.
I'd like obsessively looked at, there's this one place in Mexico that would take Nick's blood and put it with mine. And I'd spent so much on acupuncture and getting needles put in me. And I'd obsessed over this fertility thing.
Yeah.
And so they said IVF, and IVF, it's weird because of course it's a scientific thing. It's a doctor that does it. And but there's a lot of, you find yourself looking for signs and trying to believe in fate and serendipity and going, is this the one that's going to work? Is this, because there's so much riding on it. I was lucky in that I was young enough where we live to still get it on the NHS, so we didn't have to pay for it. But it's still emotionally one of the most brutal things I've ever been through. Like, I had it at the QE where the corridor to the IVF department is lined with photos of all the babies they've helped make.
Right.
The ceiling, both.
Somehow I don't feel that's that helpful.
It's not helpful at all. Like, your heart's breaking for the baby you lost. It's breaking for the baby you think you'll never have. This baby. You're like, it's very intense.
Yeah.
And the basics of it is the woman has to inject herself daily for 3 months with hormones that will help her create more eggs.
Okay.
The man has to do very little until the day that he goes in to the special room and does his favourite thing.
With his magazines.
With his magazines. So there's a lot of pressure. Well, there is a lot of pressure on the man in that moment. I joke in my set that there isn't, but of course there is.
Yeah.
But for the woman, it's like 3 months of... It's like having 3 months of being on your period. You're just mental. You're really emotional. You're really bloated. You're really anxious, all because of all the medication. And not to mention what you're going through would make you anxious anyway. And I just remember the day that I went in, you go in for them to check how many eggs you've made. And they'd said, like, so for you, Kelly, for your age and the amount of hormones we've been giving you, we would expect you to have made 24 eggs. And I'd made 8. And they were like, oh, this isn't good enough. Would you be prepared for us to up your hormones? So I was like, yeah. So there was another few weeks, I think it was a month, of more hormones. And then I went in, and you are sedated. You're kind of out of it while they take the eggs out of you, and then they put it with the sperm that they've collected. And then you go back in, and this is the most brutal bit. They have a piece of paper with, like, very, very basic diagrams of the fetuses that you've made on it.
Oh,
and then they talk about how good they are. Okay. And they put a biro mark through the ones that aren't good enough.
Wow.
So me and Nick sat there and they were like, right, that one would never make it. And these are, in my head, these are babies. Like, I'm very, very pro-abortion.
No,
that's not what this is about. But in my head, these were my babies. They were like, that one's never going to make it.
It's the way that the treatment...
Yeah. And I get it because it's medicine and it's science and it's clinical. But I had real heart and feelings in it, and so did Nick. And so they're crossing them out, and then they go, right, we've got 2 here. There's something about, if they've split into 4, there's a good chance that it could implant. If the cell is split into 4, there's a good chance. There's like, you've got 1 that's split into 4 here. So we're definitely going to put 1 back in. But there's also a fetus that's only on 3. Do you want to chance it? You're just playing with, like, your potential children. And it was like, so we decided to get the 2 put back in. And then So you're kind of lying there with legs in stirrups, and on the screen you can see your potential babies being put in.
Oh my God.
It's mental. And then they go, oh look, that one. I'll never forget this. They went, that one's just split into 4, and so we knew we had 2 that potentially were going to become our babies, and you have to go back at 6 weeks. No, before that. Oh my God, this is crazy. You get told on the phone if it's successfully implanted or not.
Okay.
So you go in for a blood test, and then they say, right, we'll ring you to let you know if the pregnancy's successful or not.
Yeah.
So it was just the craziest.
Sounds like a job interview. We'll ring you if you're successful.
Oh my God. So Nick had work, and my lovely Irish Catholic friend Christine took me for breakfast because she was like, you can't be on your own. And I'm not religious, but she was like spraying me with holy water, and I was like, yeah,
the power of Christ.
What else have you got? Like, just lay it on me. And then I remember being in my bedroom, taking the phone call, and they were like, Kelly Rickard, yes, what's your date of birth? I said, and then they were like, are you sitting down? And I said, yeah. They went, it's worked, you're pregnant. I've never felt anything like that. I've never, the gratitude I felt, and also I started, I don't believe in a God. Well, not necessarily, I'm just not religious. I just started praying.
The universe was on your side in that moment.
Something.
Yeah.
I was like, because I know what it's like to be the one that it's not worked for.
Yeah.
And then, then the following week you go in for your scan, and that's when we got told that there was only 1 heartbeat and we'd lost one. And that, I was so used to grief by this point. It was a feeling that I knew so well that I was like, it was almost expected, but Nick found it really a lot harder than me that time, because he was like, I've been picturing 2, I saw us with 2, and that was only the start. I was the most anxious pregnant woman ever. I was just terrified of losing her constantly. Every time I went for a wee, I thought I was going to see blood. It was just, I didn't enjoy it. I wasn't one of them that glowed. I was just like...
Yeah, it was just constant stress and anxiety.
Please let me keep her in. Please let this work. Please let... And then sort of 6 weeks before she was due, the gas man came out to fix our boiler. And I was making him a cup of tea. And I joke about how this happened because I struggle with small talk. But I was making a cup of tea, and then I just felt this almighty cramp. And I'd felt it before with a miscarriage. I was like, I'm losing her. This is happening again. And there was just so much blood. It was just loads of it. And I just said, I'm so sorry, you're going to have to go. I'm going to ring for an ambulance. And the paramedics came. And this is when I knew we were in trouble, because I got in the back of the ambulance and they were like, oh, this is not anything for you to worry about. It's just so we can go through the red lights, but we are going to put the siren on. And I thought, I'm losing this baby. And I got to the hospital, and Nick is like a perpetually sunny person. Like, his default mode is joy. And I looked at his face and it was white. And I thought, this is it. It's not happening. It's not. And then they kind of, you hooked up to all these monitors and stuff. And they were like, because we knew it was a girl, they said something along the lines of, she's not happy. She's not happy in there. She's her heart rate's gone through the roof. We're going to need to get her out now. So they kind of took me down to surgery for an emergency C-section, and they show you this picture of like a prawn and one of a cat, and they're like, we need you to make your back look like an angry cat so that they can get the spinal injection in. So I've never felt pressure like it. I was like trying to make myself look like an angry cat, and then you feel
while also pregnant.
All of this, knowing that she wasn't breathing, knowing what, and then they kind of got her out, and she was just tiny. She was like a little kitten, and we weren't allowed to hold her. I just remember stroking the bridge of her nose, like just before they took her, and they went, she's really poorly, we have to take her now. And I was kind of off my head on morphine and didn't know what was going on. And then a few hours later, they said, right, we'll take you down to see her in the incubator. And this was so not the Instagram ideal. I saw her with all the wires and then not being able to breathe, and I just threw up into my t-shirt. I was just like, so scared for her. And that was the start of things getting a bit dark inside my head, because I really started to believe that we weren't going to get to have her, that she wasn't going to survive.
Yeah.
And the nurses on the special care unit wouldn't let me hold her, even when other hospitals would have, because a lot of hospitals are trained now in how important it is for skin-to-skin care for babies, and especially premature babies. Some people volunteer to go in and hold them because it's that important that they're held, but they wouldn't listen to me. And I was like, please let me hold her, please. Or please just let me stay by her incubator. But they used to, every night, the whole time she was in there, they would escort me off the premises. And I was like, it's the most primal thing I've ever gone through. You know, those women that you see in war-torn countries whose children are under the rubble. I was like that. I was howling as they kind of pulled me through the corridors to make me leave the hospital. And they would kind of get me out through the sliding doors and they'd go home, rest. She needs you to be well. And I'd be like, she needs me to be with her. And it was, I think that was the definitely the starting point of me really struggling with my mental health. And she was in for 2 weeks, and just every day I'd go in and sit with her and I'd use a breast pump, and I was crazy, but the only thing that made me feel like I had any agency to help her was breastfeeding. So I would pump it, put it in these bottles, and then I'd label these bottles those crazy names because I'd read somewhere that water molecules respond to words. So I mean, no wonder why they thought I was nuts and shouldn't be allowed to hold it, but I'd put things like Letty's Magic Elixir or Letty's Healthy Smoothie, or just anything that made me feel like I was doing something to help her because they wouldn't let me hold her. It was, to this day, the hardest thing I've ever been through.
Yeah.
Like, really tricky.
It's interesting because obviously you telling the story of how IVF actually works, I knew none of that. And I do feel like, speaking as a man, I feel like we are very ignorant as men to what women go through, not just in pregnancy, but like just their hormones and anything to do with childbirth and miscarriages. I think we're very.
I think women too, though. I think we all are till it happens to us, because it's not. People aren't comfy with you talking about it. Yeah. I very much felt that after my miscarriage. Even with friends, I thought, they don't want to hear this. I can feel it. I can feel the energy in the room change when I bring it up. But like anyone that's been through trauma, I was just desperate to talk about it and offload it.
But you did something really interesting, which I love, is that you wrote it into your show.
Yeah.
So was that, do you think that was like a therapeutic thing for you? Was it something you felt like you needed to do? Or was it just something that you were like, I can joke about this now?
No, it was a compulsion. Okay. It was like a cathartic kind of... So when I decided I was going to do a show, I sat with a notepad and pen, and I had no idea where the show was going or what it was going to be. But I had this overwhelming feeling for a couple of years that I need to talk about this, and I need to talk about it somewhere, and therapy's not the place. I didn't want to be anywhere near anything that felt medical or doctory. So I started writing, and to me, still now, I'm not sure that I managed to make all of it funny, but I knew I needed to say it. Mm-hmm. It's
a hard topic to make funny.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think I managed to make the IVF stuff funny because I really played about with that idea that all Nick had to do was go in and
yeah.
just do that. And he came out and he pretended it was difficult. He was like, it was tricky without you. Was it? So I had a lot of fun with that bit. But the Letty being poorly and me going crazy, that some of that was darkly funny. Mm-hmm. Like, because when I went to Lally with postpartum psychosis, I could see the room that she was going to die in. I knew which room in our house it was going to, and I would run through that room with her in my arms. And if I made it to the other side of the room, I'd think, like, that's how come
that's interesting.
Yeah, I was so ill with it.
How long was that period where you sort of... Cause it's like, I don't fully understand psychosis. You might have to like explain that a bit more.
It manifests very differently in different women. There are some women where it comes out as a compulsion to hurt your baby, which scares the living daylights out of me. I had the other type, which is you just think you play all these worst case scenarios on a loop in your head. Yeah. You're just desperate to save them. It's like living in a really shit action film. That's how I felt. My adrenaline was up all the time. I was constantly thinking of ways she was going to die and what I could do to stop it. And also I got and this I did talk about in my show, was things like I'd be watching Lorraine Kelly on morning TV, and I would think she was delivering me a message from the devil. I would think that she was telling me today was the day she was going to die. Yeah. And like Nick's lovely uncle brought round like a homemade carved wooden cot, and all I could see when I looked in it was a dead baby. Like, it was so dark in my head, and I was just like screaming at Nick, please get the cot out of the house. And it just went black. My mind went black. And that went on for about 8 or 9 months. And I didn't tell anyone. I just kept telling my family I was tired. And I didn't tell a health visitor. I was so scared they were going to take her from me if they knew. Because I'd seen a documentary about women with psychosis, and every single one of them was treated by being taken in somewhere. And I was like, I'm not leaving her again. I'm never leaving her again. So I just hid it. And it wasn't an overnight thing. I remember about 8, 9 months having the first positive thought. I thought, oh, she looks like she's doing all right. It was the first time I could take a step back and think she looks like a healthy baby now. It was the first time I let myself think this might be okay.
Yeah.
And then by the time she was about a year, I started being a bit better at thinking ahead. So we used to live opposite a primary school, and I let myself imagine what she would look like in the uniform.
Okay, so less dramatic, more future based.
Yeah,
okay,
that was how I counteracted it in my head. And then I remember visualizing what her birthday party might look like, instead of constantly these dark black thoughts. And she, the special care unit, they did their job, they kept her alive, but they didn't. Maybe more training needed around helping the mother, I think, because they just gave me, as we were leaving with her, they gave me this pack of leaflets.
It's always the leaflets. It's always the leaflets.
The leaflets, all about worst case scenarios, which I already had playing in my head, how she may never walk, how she may never talk, how we were going to have a very different journey to other parents, all of this stuff. And actually, I get it. I get why they have to lay that stuff out. But I had to do such work on myself to undo all of that. With each milestone that she passed, when she learned to smile, when she learned to crawl, I was like, oh, she's doing it. She's smashing these. Is she going to be? Can we start to not enjoy it, but can I breathe again, or do I need to be ready for the next terrible thing? Was where I was at.
And how old is she now?
She's 10.
And all good.
She's mint. She's she's one of them that anything that they said she couldn't do, she did it to like an A grade level.
Question is though, is she as funny as her mother is?
She's very funny. She's really introverted.
Okay.
Very quiet. So you've got to get to know her for her to share that humour with you. But she's really funny. Can't write a joke. Can't craft a joke. Like,
give her time. She's 10. We'll let her off.
She tries round the dinner table, and me and Nick are like, what? But she's really naturally funny.
She's trying it, yeah. I think all kids want to be funny. But does she know what you do? Does she know that you're? She
does. Yeah, they both do. They're actually really sweet about it. Like when I've done fringe shows, they make me handmade flyers and they help me put my flyers around. And
nice.
I have to keep reminding them. It's really sweet. It's really. But I have to. Letty went through a phase about 3 years ago of going, "You're famous, aren't you, Mammy?" Because she'd seen a poster somewhere, and I had to.
Yes.
And I was like. Letty, I put that poster. I'm not famous. Like anyone can make a poster of themselves, and she was like, "But you're on stage." I went, "Yeah, lots of people are on stage and do shows and entertain people, but they're not famous." And also, I think there's that thing with YouTube where I wanted her to know that wasn't important. Like, I was like, you could be really good at something and you could make a living from it, but you might not be well known, and that's actually great.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. Yeah, that's how it is. Yeah, it's like you can look at all the reels that I post, and it's like, oh, he's got a famous portrait. It's like, no, it's I can walk down the street, no one gives a shit.
It's smoke and mirrors, isn't it? And
I
think it's really important to remind children that.
Yeah, even just like, I think especially now, because I got Facebook when I was in year 9. So that was like 2000. That was 2009.
That's probably normal. That's probably standard.
Yeah,
but it's so
I think
young,
it's earlier
it?
now. I think they're having it earlier now, and it wasn't like it is now. Like there was no Instagram. It was just like Facebook.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like you just posted like what song you were listening to, or some sort of deep lyrics from a song that you were trying to hint at your crush to come and like the thing. Do you know? It was shit like that. You know.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, now I can't imagine growing up in a world where everyone looks like they're trying to be famous or well known. It must be like very difficult, and I'm genuinely scared. Like I'm not a parent yet, but I do want to be a parent at some point, and I'm genuinely scared of how the world's gonna be, because I think even how fast everything's moved, even with like AI and stuff, when you bring all that into it, it's like how fast it's gonna move. I dread to think how I'm gonna have to parent that.
It's really, I have no idea how I'm gonna navigate any of that, because Letty and Jessie are 10 and 8. And Letty in particular is one of the only ones in her class that doesn't have a smartphone. And she feels weird for that. She feels an outsider. And find it tricky trying to put up an argument for my decision to not let her have. Because I look at it like, do you remember when you were little, if there was somebody in your class that didn't have a TV? And you thought they were a proper freak?
That was my best mate. Swear to God. So we joke about it now as well, because his mum was always like sort of like old school and stuff.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that she didn't care. Like she didn't want him to have a TV. It was just like they just didn't have a TV. So he would go to his dad's and watch TV and stuff. But it was just really funny.
Yeah, he did have access to it. So I worry that I'm making them those no TV freaks that were around when we were little. But also, how do you navigate any of that? Because so what they do see is they're not on social media, and I don't plan to let them be until they're like 16. But children find a way.
Yeah.
Like they see YouTube, because we've got YouTube, but they don't have it in their rooms. They don't have it on their iPads. It's just on our main TV, so I can see what they're watching. But even that, like they watch these like influencers, and I'm trying. It looks like real life, doesn't it? It's portrayed as if it's real life, and I'm like, no, that's acting. They are acting. And then the thing about the likes, Jessie will sometimes go, oh my God, look how thousands of likes. I'm like, it's
hard.
It's really hard.
It's ridiculous.
And he wanted to, about a year ago, he said, Mum, can we put a video of us on YouTube, me, you, Dad and Letty singing? And I was like, oh. And because he was like, but you and Dad put videos on, and I'm like, yeah, because we're adults and we know not to take the comments seriously, even though I do take them so seriously. But I need to, it's that. I don't know how to navigate any of it. And I'm just hoping if I love them enough and squeeze their faces often enough and tell them how brilliant they are, that they will learn to accept that stuff doesn't matter. But,
yeah, it's not real. It's not real validation.
I'm really scared.
It must be difficult, and I feel for you, and I'm not excited to go through that myself, to be honest. But jumping back to the comedy side of things, now I've had this discussion with I've interviewed two female comedians. I've interviewed Lauren Patterson and Elaine Robertson, who are both fantastic and hilarious.
Both amazing.
Yeah, they're so good. And obviously, you yourself being a female comedian, the running thing is about female comedians versus male comedians, because it's a talked about subject, and a lot of people do think, like you were saying, like before that joke of booking two female comedians on one show, that sort of stereotype of women not being as funny as men. Like, where do you sit on the fence of that? Like, what's your opinion on why that's still sort of like there?
What's my opinion on why some people think women aren't as funny?
Yeah, like where do you think that comes from? Do you think there's any validity in it?
I think it's that we're not allowed to be when we're little as much. There's very much still that girls, and you could argue that we're making some headway with that, with empowering girls, but there's still a long way to go. It's still that thing of girls should sit and be polite and be quiet and be nice and be likable. And I saw it with my own children. Some of the comments, like, as babies, Letty was wilder than Jessie. Jessie's a boy, Letty's a girl. As babies, she was more into typically boyish stuff. He liked dolls, and he wore a dress to Sainsbury's once when he was 3 and all of it. But people want to see proof of their gender, and they like it and it makes them feel comfortable. So just certain things, like if Letty was ever, let's say, wild or had a tantrum when we were out, people would look very concerned. And I remember the first time Jessie ran around toddlers, the toddler group, and they were like, oh, he's a proper boy. Oh, he's a proper boy.
Yeah, the difference.
So it's constantly reaffirming their gender to them and what's okay for their gender and what isn't. And just so many comments like that from around them. The funny thing, though, I think it's really complicated to unpack, because as a woman getting up there, you've got an extra hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
You know that they are expecting somebody in a shirt and jeans to get up there and moan about their wife. They're used to that. That's a formula they understand. You're going to get up there, and the first thing for a lot of audience is going to be a jarring second of, it's a woman. And there's also this weird thing that, like, the male experience is seen as the universal experience, and that the female experience is somehow an alternative thing. So, like, men can get up there and they can talk about sex and they can talk about their prostates, and that's universal. He's just an everyday guy. He's an observational comedian talking about... A woman gets up there and it's like, well, it's a bit weird and alternative. Why is she talking about a period? That's a bit... Why? why is that not
Why?
universal?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
how is
yeah,
it
yeah.
different? But I think it can, not always, but I think it can affect a female comedian because you've got that extra hurdle.
Yeah.
So maybe you do get up there on the back foot sometimes. Maybe you do sometimes have slightly less confidence because you've got one little extra battle to win.
Mm-hmm.
And that even myself, I don't get on stage with my hair down. And I don't get on stage. I never wear a skirt or a dress, or I tend to wear a messy bun and trousers because there's something about, I think even myself, and I don't mean to, but if I really look deeply, there's a part of me that judges a female comic that gets up there looking like she's dressed for the male gaze, which is terrible and it's awful, but I think we all do it.
Mm-hmm.
Like if a girl gets up there and she's got beautiful long hair and she's wearing a floral dress and you're like, are you going to be funny? Because it doesn't feel funny that you're dressing in a way that the men would like in this, which is ridiculous. But we've all got these crazy stereotypes playing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
So I was just going to say, you mentioned the dress sense, and one of my favourite comics who goes to the stand a lot is Nicola, who does Zoe.
She's amazing.
And Zoe, for anyone that hasn't seen that character, Nicola's character Zoe, comes out in like a blue fleece and these tight, like is it dogs that are on it?
Yeah.
Dog leggings and stuff, and it's like the most, it's a brilliant character, but I think that obviously... I think
plays
that
into
works.
that because she started out as a female comic that would wear makeup on stage and have her hair down, and she talks about it as well. Like, and Zoe is the antithesis of that. You immediately know that there's an invitation to laugh at her in the way that she dresses on the stage, and there's so much. But the whole "are women less funny?" No, that's absolute bollocks. Because for me, what makes people funny is hardship, the stuff they've had to overcome, and the crazy stuff that happens to them. And we have more of that because our society it's getting better, but it's geared more towards men. So, I'll always find a comic who's a bit of an underdog funnier than somebody that it's easy for them to get up on stage.
No, absolutely. And obviously, like, I agree completely. And I've seen so many hilarious female comedians, and I've seen so many, like, I think the two types of comedian that I don't really enjoy anymore, and I've noticed more and more of them creeping up, is I'm really getting sick of the political comedian. But I don't mind the odd political joke, that's fine. But when the whole act is completely political, because I'm not as clued up as I think a lot of people would expect me to be on politics. So some of the jokes fall flat with me, and I'm like, I much prefer the observational comedy, or the ones where it's some sort of like societal statement,
like an agenda.
Yeah, if it's done right, it's funny. Yeah. But I think when you come on there and you're trying to push that too much, I'm like, I just wanted to come away to not think about that stuff.
You prefer like more like wholesome, relatable comedy.
Yeah, that's my kind of comedy, and I'm not going to go to these shows and be like, that was shit because I didn't get it or didn't enjoy it. It's like, it's not that sort of thing. But I'm sort of like, the more I look into the comedy and the more reels and TikToks and stuff that I watch of stand-up comedy, the more I'm like, it just seems to become like a political space or an agenda space now, and that's not what I enjoyed comedy for. Like the comedians I grew up with was like Peter Kay and stuff like that, whereas observational shit, daily shit that like you take the piss out of. I mean, me and Carla were there. When was the last time we went?
Oh God, about a month ago.
Yeah, and there was a guy on, and he was his end bit was he was the headliner, and he was talking about someone had broke into his house and how he was the man of the house and had to go down, but he made it really funny because he wasn't prepared to take that role. And his girlfriend, he was like, my girlfriend takes all the role of that until someone breaks in the house and she turns up 1950s wife. But he was making a joke about like the gender differences, but he was slating
politics.
It was, but he was slating himself at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think he was slating both of them, and it just, the way he told it was just brilliant. And I was like, that's the way to do it. I think if it's well done, I mean, I'm not a comedian, I can't write jokes, but I just think it was really well done, and I absolutely loved it. Yeah. But do you have a specific type of comedy that you prefer to joke about? Is there something that you maybe...
There's a lot of gender politics that runs through mine. That type of stuff that you just spoke about, like the stereotypes that are expected of us. Yeah. Both of us, male and female, and people from the queer community and non-binary and trans people. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of me playing with the stereotype of what a straight man is.
Yeah.
But I always try and, counteract it somehow as well and walk that fine line, I hope.
But that's what makes it funny though when you walk that line.
Yeah. And my favourite type of comedians are the comedians that, like, on the surface of it, they've just crafted a really well-known joke, a great joke, but they kind of slip in a message under the door as well. I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that. I think it's really clever. And I quite like the ones where, I don't know, you come away thinking like the prism has shifted somehow. You've seen the world in a slightly different way somehow because of the way they've portrayed it. I like those ones.
Is there a type of comedian that you kind of go, oh, like another one, like for example, like a one-liner comedian, or one of the ones that comes on and the act is them being really awkward? Like, where is there one that really sort of you're like, oh,
I kind of have respect for all of it because I know what it takes to get up there. And one-liner comedians are so different to me that I've just got the utmost respect. That, like, it's just really well crafted.
Like Tim Vine and Milton Jones are some of the best. I love their one-liners.
Yeah, it's so clever, clever, and almost like a different art form to the sort of comics that we've been talking about, where it's observational or storytelling. Where a comedian can lose me is if they turn on the audience in a way that isn't funny. So I get the MC that banters with the audience, I get it, and it's really funny and stuff. But you know, when they're kind of like, if the night's dying and the MC's kind of like, I've had it where the MC's like, guys, you're not giving us anything, like, you know, and I'm like, it's not their job.
Yeah.
You've got a service to do here. You're in service to them. And I never lose sight of that. I think that's what the gift of all those auditions was for me, is I know what a privilege it is to be allowed up there, and I won't ever take it for granted, and I don't. But the comedians that do, I'm like, it's not the audience's job to bring something to the table.
Yeah.
Like, so they would be the ones that frustrate me.
I felt bad at the last one I was at the stand, because the front row was just given nothing.
It is really hard.
Yeah,
it
was
so
just
hard.
nothing.
And sometimes you were in the green room like, God, these are really hard tonight, but don't tell them.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to make it funny, unless you're going to somehow make it funny that they're giving you nothing.
Yeah. It was just, there was like that some guy was just in the anime and he was giving very basic answers, and then there was just one old guy who just, I was watching him the whole night, and I don't think he smiled once. I'm like, what are you doing here in the front row as well? Like, I feel like if you are going to sit the front row of a comedy gig, you've got to be willing to at least interact in some way, or have
you're
something.
asking for it.
Yeah, you are. Yeah,
but
absolutely.
A lot of people don't know that comedy etiquette, though. A lot of people genuinely, it'll be some people's first time, and they won't know that sitting in the front row knows it's an invitation for roasting.
Yeah, you're either going to laugh at yourself or cry by the end of it. Yeah. There's some comedians who will go. I love I say this on everything, and one of my favourites at the stand is Matt Reed.
Oh, he's brilliant.
He has such great crowd work. I think
he's brilliant.
It's incredible. But what do you think of? There's a trend at the minute of I can't remember his name. Is it something Smith? Is it Paul Smith or something? Is that his name?
Yeah, from Hot Water Club.
Who does the acts and stuff?
The crowd work.
Yes. Yeah. Do you think is that a specific type of comedy that should be like sort of done more so? But is it important to also then have like a routine as well? Because I've seen some that can only do crowd work, and some that do, you know, their set and then they don't really have much crowd interaction. Like,
I think I just see it as a different skill. It's definitely still stand-up, and it's still funny, and it's selling tickets, and people are really enjoying it. And I think I've not sat through a whole show of it, but the clips I've seen, he's very good at crowd work. Personally, for me, I prefer material to watch and to perform. I find it more interesting. But I don't necessarily think that crowd work should be looked at. There's a lot of comedians who are like, well, it's not proper stand-up. It is. It's just a different type of it, is how I see it.
Yeah, I think for me personally, if I'm going to a gig and it was just crowd work, I think I'd get bored quite fast, because it's just like, if you have the power to just rinse people, it's great. Yeah. But I think sometimes I want a bit more from it, I guess, as well. But speaking of getting more from a comedian, you have your own podcast as well.
Yes.
It's called Look What You Could Have Won, which is a fantastic name.
Thank you.
It reminds me of like is it Jim Bowen who used to do Bullseye and stuff like that? Let's see, well, look what you could have won. Do you know what I mean? So what's the premise behind the podcast, and why start that up? Yeah,
so I get people on, usually comedians, and I ask them to talk about a significant ex, and just talk about how their life might have been different if they'd stayed with them, like a sort of sliding doors scenario. Because I think there's quite a trend, which I am here for. I really like it at the moment, with like recognizing the value in failure. And I think there's real value in relationships that we call failed, that I wouldn't necessarily call them failures, but people do. And I think it's that recognizing what went wrong, what purpose it served, what you learned from that relationship. And also, I just really love chatting to people, and I'm quite nosy about that sort of. I love talking about relationships. I've always loved that. So it's really interesting to me. But I'm struggling because no straight men want to come on and talk to me. And like, even friends of mine, when I ask them, they do, but there's a caveat. They're like, well, I'll come on, but I don't want to talk about an ex. Can I talk about the... And like my friend Lee Kyle, who's brilliant, came on and he's like, I'll come on, but I just want to talk about my wife. And I'm like, that's great.
Not the point of the show.
Yeah. Whereas straight women are like, yes, which ex do you want to talk about? How long have we got? I'm here for this. And I really want it to be a diverse, listen. So any men out there,
any straight dudes have had it rough, come on the podcast. Yeah. But it is interesting. I do think that a lot of people, like, I think maybe as men, when that, like you mentioned earlier, the vulnerable side to a man, I think not many men are willing to admit maybe it's their wrongdoings in a relationship, or
that's
at least they kind of, I mean, it comes from both sides. I mean, you get a lot of women that will just say it was all his fucking fault. And to a degree, sometimes that's right. And sometimes it's all his fault. You know what I mean? There's two sides to that. But I think being able to sit on something like a podcast and say, look, this is where I fucked up, but this is where I've looked at. I don't think many men these days are willing to actually do that.
That's really interesting.
Especially, I mean, I've spoke to a lot of guys, and I've interviewed a lot of people, and I'm very inquisitive. I like to ask questions. Yeah. And I've seen this in a lot of breakups and stuff with friend groups over the years and stuff. I think a lot of men, they don't talk about it in depth as women do.
No. And that's partly society's fault as well. We don't encourage it as much. We're getting better, aren't we? But we don't. Yeah. But I also see it in my little boy. He seemed to learn very quickly, and certainly wasn't from us, not consciously anyway, that crying was something he should stop or hide, or he was a bit upset about, last night I walked into him with a plate. I promise. That's what, and he got really tearful, but he was sort of trying to stop the tears. And I was like, Jessie, it's fine to cry. Whereas Letty, she loves a wail. She loves a good cry. And I'm like, how have you picked that up so young?
Yeah.
But that's interesting. I hadn't thought that the men didn't want to come on and admit to their wrongdoings. I thought it was a worrying about upsetting their current partner or a...
It could be that too. Yeah. It could be that too. I think the male ego is not something to be underestimated. Yeah. Like the ability to know when you've done something wrong and actually take the time to course correct is something that I'll push on men forever, because it's important. Like the perk of being a podcast host and seeing yourself on camera all the time is, just as a tangent example, is you get to watch back when you said something wrong, or you did something that you think I probably shouldn't have said it that way or done that, and you get to constantly reassess how you talk, how you think, or whatever, or the views that you get. And I'm like, if a lot of men could see the way they've acted or whatever, and it's the same in women as well, if you could see the way that you acted in that relationship, you wouldn't take it into the next one.
No.
You would take that out and you would stop it there. But unless you are willing to look at that, you're not going to move forward.
Do you think women are more okay with being self-deprecating then and looking at themselves?
Maybe it's not self-deprecating, but I do think they do maybe overanalyze or overthink to a good degree. But obviously you will get the odd people, just people in general, who will not admit to fault, who will not take any. I've said this. One of the latest interviews I did was with a woman who went through a very abusive relationship, and she then went through and sort of analysed the relationship to death, obviously, as you would if you'd been through something like that. And we spoke about red flags and things like that. And one of the things that we said was, if every relationship you've been in, if the person that you are with is always the problem, they're not the real problem. There's some, like, if everyone else is always the problem, if you're like, oh yeah, I did this, it was my fault, like I messed this up, that takes a lot of guts to do that.
And self-awareness. And what I have noticed doing that podcast, which is lovely, is that, and maybe this is just how we make sense of things with hindsight, but I've noticed that every relationship or every person that I speak to is like, that relationship had to end, otherwise such and such wouldn't have happened. Mm-hmm. And with a lot of comics, it's otherwise I wouldn't have turned to stand up. But like, or a lot of them realised that there was a part of themselves they were denying to be in that relationship. So like a part of themselves they were hiding, and it's not I don't know if you listened to it or not, but it's not. There's very little of like bashing the ex. It's much more. I realised afterwards I was doing this. I realised afterwards I was doing that. So I think it's quite wholesome.
Yeah.
Apart from the episode I did with one of my best friends where we just had to delete everything I said about an ex.
Was it more like a therapy session that didn't need
God, it was awful. I just thought, this is now a married man with 2 children. He can't hear this. Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, I love it, and I don't talk about relationships much on the podcast and stuff, but I have no hatred for. There's no like disrespect. I'll never speak ill of anyone that I've dated, and even if they were a total psycho nutcase, I'm just like, just leave it where it is, and don't you bring it up. But I know some people who will religiously bring up bad exes or this is that, and it's just.
For me, maybe because I've been married a long time now, but I think there was something about all of them that made them worthy to be in my life. I don't know if that's the right word, but like there was something about them that I liked. There was, and I have been lucky. I've known kind men. And like your other guest, so I've got no reason to hate any of them. Yeah,
but I do like the fact that it's an introspective podcast. I think the more that you get these people on, is there a story actually that genuinely stuck out for you? That from the ones that you've done, aside from your own, that was.
I tell you which one which I really really enjoyed was my friend and fellow comic Connor Reid came on, and Connor is gay, and he talked a lot about how, because this was his first gay relationship, he hadn't realised how much internalized homophobia he was carrying, and that relationship taught him to be okay with being gay, and that was he was so open and generous with like his truth, and it was a really interesting, lovely podcast. I felt like privileged to be able to talk about that.
Yeah, I love Connor. I've seen him a couple of times now. I think
he's
great.
Hilarious. He's really great.
The Princess Diana bit gets me every time.
So funny. He's so funny.
He's great. I love his hair as well.
Yeah.
Overly jealous of people with great hair.
Oh my god, so much hair.
So much hair. But I have a question that I ask all my guests, and it's the final question that I'm going to give you today, Kelly, because we've talked about a lot of stuff, but there's one question I have to ask every guest, and it's quite simply, do you consider yourself a success? And you can answer that however you want. It's a deep question, and the answers always surprise me.
My idea of success has always been that you get paid to do something you love. And I've always hankered after that and chased that. And I am lucky in that I do get to do something that I love, but I don't consider myself a financial success yet.
Okay.
Yet. Let's underline yet. Because I always feel like I've chosen the road that doesn't necessarily lead to that. Like I've chosen the fun jobs or the elusive stage jobs and stuff. But unless you make it really big in those industries, you're kind of counting the pennies and your career's a bit of a patchwork quilt. So I'm really proud of myself that I am still trying to make that happen, and I see that as successful. But I think in order to really feel like a proper success, I need to start earning some money, some like money, and I don't need a lot. Like I'm not particularly material, but I would like that sort of worry that's in the back of my head about the children getting older, making sure that that I can afford to look after them. I would like that feeling to go away. That would feel like success.
Yeah. It's interesting that, because not many people that I've asked that question to, they always go, well, for me, it's not about financial success and whatnot. And I'm like, I would say for me, if I was to answer that as well, is the financial bit does play a part in what I would consider, because it just takes away so much stress. And as much as people don't like to admit that they'd love to have money, it's like, why not?
And I think I've spent too long beating that drum. I think I've always, because I come from a working class background, and I think I've always seen money as this gaudy, grotesque thing that makes you misbehave, and I associate it with like Tories and drinking port and purple noses and just wild excess. And because of that, I've almost shied away from ever admitting that actually we kind of all need it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that,
a lot. Money makes the world go round, man.
I'm trying to make peace with that and go, it's okay to ask for a fee, and it's okay to admit that like a family needs money.
Is that hard actually? Just as another question, I know it says my last question.
No, that's okay.
But as a comedian, is it hard sometimes when the people want freebies from you quite often for
when
that?
When you first start stand up, and that's very much expected and it's standard. It's like there's a period of time where, you know, and some people, that period goes on for years where you're just doing open mics for free in the hope that you get better and people spot you.
Yeah.
And we are very lucky comedians up here in the Northeast that we've got Felton Out, who I got my first paid gig within the first few months. So, but I still did the odd bit for free.
Yeah.
When it gets tricky is like if somebody offers you a date, offers you the gig, asks if you'll open or headline, which is generally a paid spot, and then there's no mention of the fee, so that you're like,
Yeah, asking for money, yeah.
who's going to bring this up? And because actually, you know, Dorset's quite far away. And so that can be a bit awkward.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at that.
No, I've had to do it for speaking gigs as well. And there was one that I did. It was going to be £200, and there was issues with the payment. And I was like, I hate to keep bringing this up, but I was like, I feel like I'm just being like, where's my money, bitch? You know, like some sort of
like
gangster, you know, like asking for
horrible.
interest. But it's just if you have a skill, and you know, people need to realize that not everything, like people need to live. People need to live. People need to be paid for their services and their time. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think when you do something like this, it's hard for people to see it as a currency in any way. It's like, well, she's having fun.
Yeah.
She wants to do it. She's
But I want to be paid to have fun. That's the goal.
And that's always been my goal. It's like, you know, I saw how hard my parents worked when I was little, and I was like, God, you have to spend a lot of time in work when you're older. I really hope it's a place I like and something I want to do.
And you think you found that now?
I do really like stand-up. It feels really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well, Kelly, you're an amazing comic, and that's one of the things that I've seen you several times over the years, and I just think like I just love the way that you are on stage. Just very naturally funny people. I just can't get enough of like interviewing these comedians. So thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
What do you have coming up that someone can go and see? Do you have any shows coming up?
Yes. So I'm doing like at the Stand, we're doing a family Christmas show.
Nice.
Every Saturday in December, hopefully the Sundays if we sell enough. And it's me, Lee Kyle, Elaine Robertson, Hannah Walker. And it's just a silly sort of almost anti-panto where...
Did you tell me about this? That Elaine had was it a fish head or something?
Oh yeah,
yeah,
that's the one. So there's nobody reining us in. We write it ourselves, and yesterday I was like, what if we had the ghost of Christmas Present as Chapel Rowan, and she's hypnotising somebody with a poisoned biscuit, and then there's nobody to go, Kelly, that's insane, stop.
It's unhinged.
Yeah, it's
but in a
really
good way.
unhinged. But they're very talented performers, so that's on. And you can get tickets on the Stand website. And then I decided, I don't know if this is ill-advised or not, that I would put on one Christmas night at the Cumberland Arms on the 16th of December, where I'm going to try putting singing and stand-up together and do some hopefully funny songs and make it Christmassy and festive. But that was very last minute deciding to do that. And now I'm like, is anyone going to come? Is it going to be any good?
Carla, should we go? I think we should go.
Please come. It would be lovely.
I love doing stuff like that at Christmas. It's great. It gets me in the mood.
Good.
Yeah.
And then in February, it's Sunday for Sammy 2026, which is the huge arena show where they get loads of local celebrities on, and the band's amazing. It's massive. It's a massive extravaganza, and I am hosting it. I was the first female host in this 25-year history. There is no pressure on me.
No pressure at all. No, it'd be easy.
And I'm absolutely fine about it, and I'm definitely sleeping really well.
Yeah. Excellent. So where can people follow you as well?
Oh, on Instagram, please. That would be lovely. I share my life on there. I use it like an online diary, which is terrible. But so it's at Kelly Rickard 123.
Excellent. Well, thank you again, Kelly, for coming on. And always go and follow Kelly on everything. Go check out her shows because she is an absolutely incredible comic. And I would love to hear you sing live as well. I think Kelly and the Sensations need to make a comeback soon. But as always as well, guys, please follow the show, rate the show. Wherever you are listening to this on, whether it's Spotify or Apple, there will be an option to rate the show 5 stars. No 4 stars, right?
Okay.
Always 5 stars.
Okay.
5 stars or just kindly leave. And thank you very much for listening, guys. And as always, take care and I will see you all very soon.